All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're talking about Tropical Storm Melissa, a system that has forecasters and a lot of residents on some serious high alert. And you'll see why. This isn't just another storm. Its unique combination of a super slow speed and potential for explosive growth makes it a uniquely modern kind of threat.
You know, to really get a feel for what's at stake, you have to start with the people on the ground. This quote from Jamaican forecaster weather girl Donnie just cuts right to the chase. This isn't just about weather maps and wind speeds. It's about a real, deeply unnerving feeling of what might be on the horizon.
So what is it that's so unnerving about this particular storm? Well, the first part of the threat, the most immediate danger, isn't just the wind, it's time. It's the storm's agonizingly slow crawl, which is measured not just in miles per hour, but in days of relentless, punishing weather.
And because of that, the official warnings are already up. A hurricane watch has been issued for Jamaica and the southern coast of Haiti. Now, what that means is that hurricane-forced winds are a real possibility within the next 48 hours, putting everyone on notice for some truly life-threatening conditions.
And get this, the storm is moving at just 2 miles per hour. I mean, you can walk faster than that. This isn't a system that's just going to blow through. It's basically parking itself over the region, and it's planning to stay for days.
And when a storm just sits there like that, well, the consequences are brutal. We're not talking hours of bad weather, we're talking days of it. This creates a huge risk for catastrophic flash flooding. And in the mountains of Jamaica and Haiti, that means destructive mudslides. We're looking at rainfall totals that could top a foot, an absolutely devastating amount of water.
Okay, so that's the immediate danger, the crawl. But what's going on under the hood? Let's get into the science of it, because this is where we see why Melissa isn't just going to stay a small storm. This is the anatomy of the threat.
What forecasters are seeing right now is pretty much the perfect recipe for a major hurricane. You got 3 key ingredients all coming together. First, that slow speed means it has more time to just sit there and suck up energy. Second, it's hovering over historically warm water, which acts like pure rocket fuel. And third, the winds high up in the atmosphere that usually tear storms apart are expected to die down, basically taking the brakes off this thing.
And I really want to emphasize this rocket fuel idea because it's so important. The Caribbean has been pretty quiet this storm season, which means there's this incredibly deep pool of warm water, all this heat energy that's just been sitting there, waiting. And Melissa is positioned to tap right into it.
So when you mix all those ingredients together, you get one of the most dangerous things in all of meteorology: rapid intensification. This is when a storm just explodes in strength in a really short amount of time. It can catch everyone off guard and turn what seemed like a manageable storm into an absolute monster, seemingly overnight.
And the data here really backs this up. The water in Melissa's path is about 30 degrees Celsius. That's over a degree warmer than the long-term average. And that little difference might not sound like much, but in terms of energy for a hurricane, it's a huge, huge deal.
So with the science laid out, let's bring it back to the people in the storm's path. A forecast like this, it's not some abstract idea. It's a direct and, frankly, escalating threat to millions of people, especially in Jamaica right now. I mean, just look at this projected timeline. It's really staggering. On Friday, it's a tropical storm. By Saturday, it's expected to be a Category 1 hurricane. Okay. But just 24 hours later, a Category 3 major hurricane. And then, by Monday, as it gets close to Jamaica, it could be a monster Category 4, with winds over 130 miles an hour. That is a terrifying escalation. Which brings us right back to that human element. The same forecaster we heard from at the beginning, she just captures the shock of seeing a forecast like this. For people on the island, the thought of facing a direct hit from something this powerful is, well, like she said, it's mind-blowing.
And here's a really crucial piece of context. An entire generation of people in Jamaica has no memory of a direct hit from a major hurricane. The last one was Hurricane Gilbert almost 40 years ago. That means a lot of the infrastructure and, more importantly, people's own personal experience with a storm of this magnitude is pretty much untested.
So finally, it is so important to understand that a storm like Melissa isn't just happening in a vacuum. It actually fits into a larger and pretty concerning pattern that scientists have been watching for a while. So let's just zoom out for a minute and look at the global picture.
When you look back at infamous Caribbean storms, they were often known for one of two things. You had storms like Hurricane Mitch back in '98, a slow mover that caused unimaginable flooding. Or you had Hurricane Wilma in 2005, the poster child for rapid intensification. The terrifying thing about Melissa is its potential to be the worst of both worlds. The slow, drenching crawl of a Mitch, followed by the explosive power of a Wilma.
Melissa, which really hasn't done much in the last 24 hours, but there's some things that are starting to kind of make sense now, and we're feeling a little bit more comfortable about. But like I said, not much change, still 50, pressure still above 1,000 millibars, just crawling and tiptoeing along to the west-northwest at about 3 miles per hour, so hardly moving at all. The reason why it really hasn't developed all that much is because of the shear. And there's deep convection here, but there's also a lot of shear. We're kind of in and out of 20 to 30 knots of west-southwesterly shear, and that's just keeping it disorganized. But you kind of get the idea when you look at this thing. You know, you ever look at the stove and you're kind of waiting for a pot of water to boil, and you just kind of see the little bubbles at the bottom of the pot. It's kind of where we're at right now. We're kind of waiting for this thing to bubble, which in about 48 hours, it should do that as the shear wanes. We haven't moved that much at all since Wednesday, 8 a.m. All right. I mean, just very, very slow movement. So it's been very persistent on that. So let's go forward in time. Here's the track cone. And we're going to talk more about this cone later and why it looks so weird. And look at the system. Okay, there's Melissa right there, southwest of Jamaica. Look at where all the bad shear is, way up to the north. So this thing has a chance to rapidly intensify as we get past 48 hours and into the weekend. And this is something we were watching. Yeah, we really thought the weekend was hurricane time with this, and it certainly looks that way. There will be no shortage of insanely deep, warm water ocean heat.
Melissa, a tropical storm still has been fighting for its life the last 48 hours. It's about 240 miles south-southeast of Kingston, Jamaica, and the general trend is to go west and northwest. But again, this is more of a blob rather than a cone. The confidence is low as to exactly where it goes. We do think it'll take a lot of time, and so just know that from Haiti to Jamaica, the biggest impacts are going to be there. Here's what it's fighting. Big-time wind shear. Up in the upper atmosphere, you've got these high winds that try to cut down at the tops of hurricanes, so it wants to follow the path of least resistance, hang out where it's a lot easier. That will start to shift, but that's also the fence that keeps it away from the lower 48. I imagine this tropical storm watch will be upgraded for Jamaica too.